is the Sensitive CEO Show, igniting sensitive entrepreneurs to grow your heart-centered business. I'm your host, Rose Cox, and this podcast shares with you inspiring and thought-provoking conversations for sensitive entrepreneurs wanting to grow a sustainable online business in a way that feels exciting and aligned with your soul. Along with my carefully curated expert guests, we share science-backed advice, proven strategies, and the systems we use to succeed in our businesses and our lives as highly sensitives, introverts, and empaths. And by the way, if you would like to be updated on when each episode is released, feel free to subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll also get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. To subscribe, pop on over to the website sensitiveceo.show or rosecox.com/pod. Now on to today's show. Hey, it's Rose and welcome to another episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Tashina King about how to break the perfectionist mindset. Welcome, Tashina, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everyone listening today.
Hi, Rose. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to spending the time here with you and having an awesome conversation. So my name is Tashina King, and I'm a mindset and confidence coach. And a little bit about me is I have been doing this work since 2012, and I have toured over 13 countries as a top recognized instructor in the realm of partner dancing and coaching, working with thousands of individuals, supporting them in connecting with their self-worth, their inner confidence, and their voice, and how they want to go about living their life in an empowered way. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I have a 3-year-old son, and I'm currently, at the time of the recording of this post, 37 weeks pregnant and due at any moment, basically, with my second son.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Tashina. That's so exciting.
Yeah. It is.
Maybe when the episode airs, because we are pre-recording, you will have another little boy.
Probably, yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. So let's diving into your topic today around perfectionism and how to break the perfectionist mindset. Can you just talk a little bit first of all about where the term perfectionism actually originates from?
Well, for many individuals, the term perfectionism becomes evident to them somewhere around maybe adolescence, young adulthood, but really oftentimes it starts for an individual much earlier on in their life, where there has been some form of pressure placed on them, whether an outside pressure from grandparents, parents, family, culture, religion, society even, or an internal pressure that in order to be enough in some capacity, the individual must reach and maintain a certain level of standard in their life. And oftentimes that pressure goes across multiple areas of life, not just one area of life. And so it often originates at a deep level of a person feeling like they have to prove themselves to be enough. And so how that is manifested is certain standards that they feel they have to consistently meet. And if they don't meet it, then a whole series of fears or events may take place or have taken place in their past, which then reinforce their strive for continued perfectionism.
And it is so rampant, isn't it, in our society today, perfectionism. It's every second word almost, isn't it?
It really is. It's everywhere in social media advertising, even in how we speak. I catch myself once in a while going, "Oh, that sounds perfect." So it's even in our day-to-day talk that this concept, of perfectionism is ever present.
Mm. And why do you think it's so challenging for people to overcome it? Is it because it's sort of permeated our lives for so long?
Yes, I do think that is a big, big piece of it. And because it's so deeply rooted in themselves that they have to prove themselves or that they have to be enough in order to be valuable or worthy or enough for a relationship or whatever it is in their life that they're aiming to be perfect at, that they they have to just continue it. And whenever they meet a goal or whenever they get that next certification, you know, they don't take the opportunity to recognize the skill sets that got them there. And they're already focused on the next thing that they have to achieve at a perfection level to still and continue maintain being worthy or enough. And so it's so deeply rooted in individuals that it's oftentimes very hard for a person to overcome it when they're only working at overcoming it at a conscious level.
Mm. And so I understand you work with your clients at the subconscious level using Psych K. Is that correct?
Yes, that really is where I have found to be the most effective place in a person's life to affect change. And perfectionism is also rooted at the subconscious level because what happens is up until about the age of 7, so even in utero, up until about the age of 7, our subconscious mind is very much like a sponge, and we're subjected to hearing our family say things over and over again and demonstrate things over and over again. Same goes with how we see advertisements and media and news. And now, in the wonderful world of social media, we're constantly bombarded with messaging about what is expected of us as individuals in the world. And up until about the age of 7, we're in a brainwave state where we're taking everything in at face value. We don't yet have the ability to use our discernment and judgment. And so that's the reason things are so often deeply rooted for an individual, is because they weren't even aware that they were being or buying into this messaging of what is needed in order to be successful in life, because it started at such an early age. And then by the time we do have the ability to discern and judge and question things, things are already running in the background of our subconscious, which creates our outward reality, the things that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And when people try to then overcome something, it's often only with the conscious mind, which is really only about 5% of our awareness. Whereas the subconscious mind is responsible for approximately 95% of our awareness and our experiences. And so, if we really want to affect change, transformation, healing, and a deep, deep level of personal growth, we really need to do that at the subconscious level where things are originating from.
Yeah, makes so much sense. You probably know my background is hypnotherapy and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist.
Right.
So I so get the subconscious. I know that there's so much going on there for us and obviously for our clients as well. But Psych K, I came across it many, many years ago, but I'd love for you to share for the people listening today who haven't heard of Psych K, how does that actually work?
So it accesses the brainwave state like hypnotherapy does to affect change at the subconscious level. And there's different processes that we use within Psyche that allows an individual to make those subconscious changes. My personal experience with hypnotherapy has been more of an eyes closed experience for the duration of a hypnotherapy session. And Psyche tends to be more of an open eyed experience. And there are times within working with the processes where your eyes are closed. So that is very different, again, just from my personal experience with hypnotherapy. that differs from Psyche, but both are ways of accessing the subconscious mind. With the Psyche, there's been studies with brain mapping that are showing that when an individual enters into a subconscious change process, which is moving from a belief that limits an individual in their life to an empowering belief that supports an individual in their growth and changing their life, the new neural pathways that are created between left and right hemisphere of the brain. So it's opening up and accessing more abilities that the individual has in relationship to what they're working on, what their goals are, that they're engaging the Psyche processes with.
Mm. I love that there's so many tools to actually get to the subconscious mind, and
I know, me too.
it's amazing, isn't it? It's like, and the eyes open process is really fascinating. Why do you think there's the difference between the eyes closed and the eyes open?
Well, when the actual change process is taking place, I would say 90% of the time with the Psyche approach, the actual process is with the eyes closed. More of the time in the session where there's discussion or exploration or identification of what goal the individual has that they're wanting to shift into, that tends to be more of an eye open experience, which is where I have found the difference between hypnotherapy and the Psyche approach.
Mm, mm. And how many, when you're working with your clients, how many sessions do you do with the Psyche?
Well, it varies so drastically. Personally, in my practice, have found about 8 sessions is a really solid number to be able to get familiar with the processes, B, to understand how you as an individual have been programmed or the beliefs that you have, and then really to clarify in a big picture the life that you're really wanting to create for yourself. And so usually 8 to 10 sessions is where I live, if you will, with my clients. But there's beautiful, amazing, and transformational change that can really take place in just one session itself. But if you think about how we grow up, our beliefs are formed over many years and many experiences. And so to really create large change in a person's life, we have to take the time to really unpack the different layers and levels that create the unwanted results in an individual's life. And oftentimes a person is only ready or able to experience so much change at one time. So oftentimes we go back and revisit the next layer to transforming a limiting belief. So 8 to 10 sessions to answer your question.
Yeah, yeah, and as you say, I mean, there's so much conditioning, isn't there, from the young ages up to however old we are now. That's layers of subconscious programming that often we're not even aware of, half of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, like, even after 8 to 10 sessions, we as humans are constantly evolving. We're constantly having new experiences take place and learning more about ourselves. So there's always an opportunity to keep working with yourself with limiting beliefs. And, just for myself, like using the processes first in my professional dance career really got me jump started into understanding the subconscious, understanding the power of the mind and limiting beliefs and how they play a role. And I made a lot of progress, and that was my main focus. But when I then got married and my husband and I were talking about, being ready to become parents, it opened up a whole other area of life where I had not yet applied that growth opportunity. So there's always going to be, no matter how many sessions you have, or if you do your own personal work, there's always going to be more room for evolution in who you are as a person.
And room for improvement comes up for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how would you recommend people actually shift out of perfectionism?
I think a really important place to start is for an individual to really start to question for themselves if they were to reach this idea, this perception of perfection, what would that then bring them in life? What are they ultimately after? Is it that they're seen? Is it that they're enough? Is it that they belong? For everybody, it'll be a different answer, and there may be several answers for one individual. But to really identify what is it that you're truly wanting to create for yourself in life by striving for perfectionism. And once you're able to identify that, then taking a look at what beliefs do you have about yourself in this moment? Because let's hypothetically say you do reach this ultimate level of perfectionism. If you're still operating from this internal belief system that no matter what you do, you'll never be good enough, then no matter how much perfectionism you reach, that will never be good enough. And so identifying for yourself what it is that you're really after, what are your current beliefs about yourself, and starting to shift those beliefs now. I am enough regardless of what I produce in my job or my company. I am enough. I am lovable as I am right now. It'll again be different for every single person, but to start to work with those subconscious beliefs now, and that will really start to release the grasp that perfectionism has on an individual. So that would be the first place that I would really encourage and invite a person to start exploring.
And what sort of tools, also one or two tools, would you recommend, say, for someone to do on their own if they're not ready for working with someone at this stage? What would be a couple of tools you could recommend to people listening?
One thing that's been helpful is, again, just going through that process and having the self-reflection space for yourself, even if you don't take that into an active coaching relationship with someone else, that's still a really empowering place to have clarity on, is what is it that you're really after, and what are ways that you can start to feel enough now, or start to appreciate what you do? What are ways that you can celebrate how you are enough? Another really powerful tool that I've had several clients use is reaching out to a few trusted individuals in their life and ask for feedback of how their friends, their family, their loved ones see them as enough in that relationship or in their life. Because oftentimes, we as, I think, a human race are pretty conditioned to focus on what we don't have. We're focused on that lack. And so we're constantly looking at what we need to do better at. And oftentimes we don't celebrate what we are really great at, the value that we inherently bring to relationships and experiences. And by having someone that we love, trust, and respect offer us a different perspective of how we do add to situations, what they appreciate about us is a really beautiful and eye-opening experience for a person to start to consider that maybe it's just how they perceive themselves, when in reality, there's many perceptions of them, of how they are enough and how they are lovable and appreciated and valuable and worthy. And that can also be a really powerful tool to start to unlock the need to strive for constant perfectionism.
I love that. And often people do see such a different side to us than we actually see ourselves, don't they?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I believe it was a TEDx talk once about college classroom where one side, a ball, there was like a basketball, something like that in the middle of the room. And one side of the ball was painted red and the other side of the ball was painted yellow, something like that. And the professor was asking half of the room, what color is the ball? And they kept saying red. And the other half of the room, they kept saying yellow. And, the aha came for the class when the teacher rotated the ball so that the other half of the class could see the other color of the ball, and how it's really just a matter of perception.
Yeah.
And so if we were to move places in the room, let's say, if we were to change our perspective of how we look at ourselves, we could see the other sides of us that are truly incredible, as opposed to just looking at ourselves through the lens or through the position in the room of not enough, or no matter what we do is accepted or valuable. So that was just a really powerful visual for me when I saw that, and how that really plays into a lot of individuals' perspectives in their lives.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll have to keep an eye out. Do you remember what it was called by any chance?
Unfortunately, I don't. It was many, many years ago, but
Yeah.
it obviously left a lasting impression because
Yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
a simple visual but powerful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful visual. I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was actually going to ask you, I'm really curious. You mentioned in your introduction about partner dancing and coaching. I'd love you to share a little bit about that. I've got a bit of a dancing background, not as
Oh,
much as yours, but I love dancing. So can you share about partner dancing, Tashina?
yeah. Well, I've danced since I was 2.5. I came into the world with a soul calling to move into dance. And through my journey, it led me into a form of dance called West Coast Swing. And I actually got to go teach and judge in Australia. I think it was like 5, 6 years ago now. But it's a really fascinating style. It's very much considered more like a street dance, like hip hop would be.
Hmm.
And ballroom partner dancing is much more classical, like maybe ballet, if you were to compare those styles of dance. And what I love about West Coast Swing is it really calls for an individual to be their authentic self in the dance because a lot of it, 90% of the style is based off of improv. So each partner knows the basics of the dance, but then you dance with random partners to random songs and you create off of those basic patterns and the basic structure rhythm of the dance. And so for me, I had to really break down perfectionism when it came to West Coast swing and this form of partner dancing. My background previous to that was solo dancing and being taught choreographed routines where there was an exact placement of movement and arms and timing to a very specific time in the music. And so I became very comfortable in knowing what I was supposed to do. And it gave me, marker of what would be perfect, right? And when it came to this form of partner dance, where you're doing a lot of improv, I really had to let go of not knowing the roadmap, really, other than just the basics and being creative and creating on the fly. And for me, that unknown space of taking risk and putting my ideas out there that hadn't had time to be polished yet really struck my perfectionist chord because I was so afraid, as at this time I was pursuing this professionally, I was really afraid that if I messed up or if my movement came across as sloppy or not as refined as it possibly could, that I wouldn't be taken as a serious dancer. I wouldn't be taken as a serious professional, which would then impact my career of being able to be hired and be successful in my dance career. And so having to really explore the improvisational realm and be okay with my ideas not being perfect or polished really was a huge time in my life to explore breaking out of what it meant to be perfect
Yeah.
and be okay with that and be embracing of the bobbles along the way and enjoy that process versus the end result. Everything polished is what I was so used to and trained in the other forms of dance that I had done prior to that.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, how powerful! What an amazing, powerful way to get out of that perfectionism. Because I totally relate to the choreography. I did ballet for many years, and
Mhm.
being improv would just be really scary. So that
Right.
I can see that as such a powerful way, and I love that you bring that into your work with coaching as well. How amazing!
Yeah, oftentimes, and this is something I'm still definitely exploring in my own business, but as an entrepreneur, we're oftentimes engaged in all these different courses of how to do marketing and how to do sales, and everyone has, their way of building a business. And so we can, as entrepreneurs, get really locked into doing those courses or those strategies in the most perfect way. And then we get frustrated or down on ourselves or we lose motivation when those strategies aren't working for us because, in some way, shape, or form, we're not in flow with our own creative aspect of ourselves that makes our businesses unique.
Yeah.
And so embracing, a structure like the basics of West Coast swing is important, I think, in business, while also allowing ourselves the space to take creative license in a way that is authentic to our vision and our business is really important. And be okay that there may be some, again, bobbles or unrefinement that occurs along the way. But in the end, it'll create this beautiful work of art, which is your business, just like a beautiful work of art on the dance floor. So I have definitely found the lesson in my dancing showing up just in another facet in my business and many other clients that I've worked with.
Wow, I love that. Well, this has been such an interesting conversation today, Tashina. Thank you so very much. And I've got
Absolutely.
one final question that I love to ask all of my guests. When
Okay.
you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
Well, there's definitely different things that I do depending on what it is that I'm experiencing. For me, getting outside is always really important. I think given our culture where we're constantly in front of a screen, it's really important to reconnect with nature and the beauty, the creativity, the inspiration that comes from nature. So that's definitely something that I engage in. And then also connecting with something that brings me joy. So when we step into a space of joy, it reignites our energy, it reignites our creativity, it reignites our ability to show up, stay motivated, and be focused. So, one thing that I would encourage anyone listening to do is have a list of, 3 to 4 things that are simple things to do that bring you lots of joy. And given the challenge that you may be faced with on any given day, looking at that list, that joy list, and then taking a pause and going and experiencing one of those things. It can be a really powerful way to reground and refocus yourself.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, Tashina. As I said, it's been wonderful talking to you today.
Absolutely. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave me a review on sensitiveceo.show. Just follow the prompt in the menu. Each month, I'm offering one lucky reviewer a chance to win a 1-hour business and mindset audit with me. This in-depth audit covers the 5 pillars of your online business, and you'll walk away with super clear action steps specifically for you and your business. You'll be re-energized and motivated to step into your greatness. You'll also find all of the show notes for each episode on the website sensitiveceo.show. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. And as the name implies, the email is short and sweet. The Sensitive CEO Show, igniting your sensitive superpowers.